Welcome back to the channel, and today we're talking about the Canon EOS R or the Canon R. So yes guys, let me just get this out of the way. It's too huge, man. I've made a first video about that, on the channel, which is the first impression video. If you haven't seen it, you guys can quickly check the channel. I think it's uploaded it recently. So today we're talking about a few disadvantages and advantages about this camera. I believe I have had it for quite some time now. Not so long, but it's been a while now. So I've delved through this camera. I've had my hands on, I've checked a few disadvantages and advantages about this camera, and I believe I can share my thoughts about this camera. So let's just get straight into it. So talking about this camera was released, I think, in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. The advantages of this camera, man, I won't lie to you guys, it's my first time owning a full frame camera in my entire life. This is my first full frame camera, and this happens to be my first mirrorless camera. So with the previous cameras that I've owned, which is the 90D, the 750D, 700D, those ones were the APS-C cameras. What that simply means is when I'm shooting a video currently, like what you guys are seeing me now, it will be cropped in, but if it is a full frame, you guys will be able to see some wide depth. You guys will see more than what you are currently viewing if it is a full frame. Heading to the second advantage is the camera build quality is just awesome. If you guys did watch the first impression video that I made, you guys could clearly see that I was very surprised. I was very happy when I got my hands on the camera. Just by the grip alone, you guys can tell a huge difference from your regular entry-level cameras. So it's a huge plus. When you are holding the camera, it feels steady. It feels like you're really holding a professional camera. I haven't had a lot of cameras in the past, but I've really used most of the cameras in the past, so I do know how it feels to own what I'm currently having right now. I'm not saying this camera is bad, I'm not saying that camera is bad, but honestly I think I made the right decision, because when I was buying this camera, I had the choice or the chance between choosing this one and the GH5. So I had to let the GH5 down due to some personal reasons, which I'll be making a video on this channel very soon. So if you're new, kindly hit on the subscribe button, join the family, and I believe you're going to see the video once I release it. So the next advantage that I will list out there will have to be the inputs of the camera. I think it is my first time seeing a camera that got a USB Type-C on a camera. That's crazy. So what that means is the inputs that it's got here, I will be able to transfer my files, or if I shoot anything, I should be able to transfer the files from this camera to my laptop using the USB Type-C. The other advantage on my list is the megapixel. This camera shoots about 30 megapixel, 30 to 30 something megapixel if I'm not mistaken. I think 30.2 or 30.3. Just correct me if I'm wrong. It's a huge sensor that has been packed into this thing. So trust me, if I get out there, I really do get some awesome footages. I do really get some crazy footages. You guys might be watching this and be like, okay, why not show us some sample footages? I cannot show any sample footage because I recently got my hands on this, and the only test that I've done was borrowing someone's lens to test how it is. I haven't shot anything crazy so far because I recently purchased the mount. Remember, with this camera you do not have the access to use your regular EFS lenses just here, because the mount is RF lens, which is Canon's new mount system. So in order to use your regular Canon lenses, which means you need to adapt it, and the lens adapter cost about 2,000 to 3,000 rands in South Africa. So I had to buy it overseas where I got it cheaper, and obviously if it's cheaper outside, which means the shipping cost is going to be the shipping duration is going to be longer, so I have to wait about a month. So I'm still waiting. Once I get my hands on, I'll be producing you guys, or there might be part 2 of this video showing the sample footages and all the amazing shot that I've got with this camera. The next on the list is the mount system. I believe that Canon is now moving into the RF market, and being able to get my hands on a camera that uses that mount, I know it's a hassle because now I'm unable to use it due to the mount system, but being able to also adapt it to most of the lenses that I have, it's really awesome, because I'll be able to use the RF mount and I'll still be able to use the EF mount as well. This camera is really packed with some great features and awesome features that if you get your hands on, trust me, you're really going to enjoy this camera. I pretty much love what I'm holding now, and I believe it's going to serve me for a while. So yeah, I think that will have to conclude the advantages, because I seems to be saying a whole lot, and I don't want this video to be too long, so let's just head straight into the disadvantages. So the first disadvantages that I'll have to list on have to be the SD card slot, memory card slot system. I don't know how you guys do call it, but here where you put the memory card. So the problem here is this camera is only having a single SD card slot, which is a problem, because with the other choice that I had, it was a dual SD card, which is the GH5. So the GH5, you do have two SD card slot, and that is nice, because if you ever on a shoot or you are having a paid gig like a wedding, and you are going with this camera which is just a single card slot, and by any chance something happens or you lose the files, it's going to be a huge problem, because having a single card slot is risky. I mean, anything can happen on the shoot, anything. You can have a corrupt memory card, anything can happen. So it's always best that your camera uses two SD card slots, so that you'll be able to have different backups and all that in case of any difficulties or any problems. So that will have to be the first disadvantages about this camera, the SD card slot, which is being one, it's a huge problem for me. But I also do understand Canon, because if they do pack two SD cards in this camera here, what about the other systems like the R6 and all that? What's gonna happen to them? So I believe they also do this sometimes to limit the capabilities of the camera. They can't always pack great features in one camera, hence people say that there is no great camera in the market. It's just a matter of knowing what you want to do with it and knowing how to use the camera as well. The next disadvantage that I'll have to list out here will have to be the 4K crop. So when you switch into 4K, you do get a crop, okay? Coming from the Canon 90D, which is an APS-C camera, when I'm shooting a slow-mo on up to 120 frame, there is no crop, okay? There's no additional crop. Already it's an APS-C camera, so you do get a crop which is 1.6. But when you switch to 120 frame per second, you do not get any additional crop. But here, when you switch to that, you do get an additional crop, which means you're no longer going to get your full frame. It switched back to an APS-C camera, which is more like using the camera that I had before, which is the 90D. So somehow it's a problem, but not always. You can always use the 1080p, which you can manage it. So it all depends. So but this only applies to the 4K side. With the photos you do get your full frame. With the 1080p side, you still get your full frame. So it all depends on your preference. I believe this camera ticks most of the boxes for me, hence I went for it. With the type of shoot that I do, which is wedding and all that, I believe it's not really going to be a problem. But it depends on what you shoot out there. You should also check what you do. If you think it will be a problem, then I believe there are a huge selection out there that you can always check up for. It all depends. Yeah, quite a couple of disadvantages. I don't want to list everything out there, because I want to really dial in the camera to produce you guys with a full experience about this camera. So I believe I'm going to run a part 2 of this whole video about EOS R. So the first impression video is already out there. This is the second one, which is more of a review but a shorter version. So yeah, man, overall so far so good. I pretty much love this camera. Holding it alone, man, man, it feels good. It really feels good. It really feels good. So yeah, man, if you got any questions based on this camera, list it in the comment section. I really appreciate it if you do subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe. Peace.